Because I didn't call or email that he wasn't coming.
Okay. I'd like to call to order the Sylvania Township Board of Zoning Appeals regular hearing. And would ask that the roll call be done.
Mr. Helberg?
Here.
Mr. Emch?
Here.
Mr. Hayes?
Here.
Mr. Amos?
Here.
Mr. Sable?
Here.
Mr. Boland is absent.
Okay. I also entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting of April 2nd, 2012.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Helberg?
Yes.
Mr. Emch?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Sable?
Yes.
I don't see any old business before us. If there is any, somebody would like to let me know. If not, we would move on to new business. And I will ask any of those in attendance tonight that may be testifying, if I could ask you now to raise your right hand. And you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Thank you. Okay. First new business will be a variance to increase fence height around the swimming pool and a reduction in the front setback for the property located at 4601 Brookhurst by Thomas and Cheryl Weiss, the property owners. And before we take any testimony, we'll get some information from the staff recommendation. We could get some background on that, please.
Yes, the applicants are seeking a variance from the height requirements for the solid privacy fencing in a front setback under Section 2211A, 3 feet for solid fencing to 5 feet in order to secure the in-ground swimming pool on the property. The subject property is a corner lot with an in-ground swimming pool, located directly behind the house. The current fence on the property runs along Westbourne Road. It's approximately 4 feet tall, and it's a split rail fence with mesh wiring. They want to place a 5-foot solid fence in place of that fence. Two requirements in the Sylvania Township zoning resolution from which the applicant seeks relief. The first one is Section 703, the development standards. States corner lots shall have the required front setback on both street frontages, and for an RA zone district, which this is, it's 30 feet. The second one is Section 2211A of fencing residential. Dictates that the maximum height for a solid privacy fence in a front setback in a residential zone is 3 feet. And with the in-ground pool, they need to have at least a 3.5-foot fence to comply with the zoning resolution. So a 3-foot solid fence wouldn't do it. So their other options are to put a fence closer to the swimming pool that would be outside of the front setback, and that could be 5 foot. It actually could be up to 6 feet solid fencing. Or go with the 3.5-foot open fencing where the current fence is, with the locking gate. The staff recommends denial of this request because of these other options available to the applicant, and for the fact that they were aware of the property being a corner lot with an in-ground pool when they purchased the property.
Okay. Before I ask if there's any questions, and would you like to have your full staff analysis placed into the record then?
Yes.
Okay. We'll do that. Do we have any questions regarding the staff recommendation so far? Any questions?
No.
I had one. Their proposal is to have the fence remain where it's located, from what I understand, which would put it within the setback.
Right.
If they wanted to get beyond the setback, do we know where that puts them? I mean, obviously,
Yes.
Is it feasible?
Yeah, the setback is 30 feet.
Right.
So yeah, they can move it 30 feet from that right-of-way of the side street and bring it back.
Okay, and,
And there's room to do that.
okay. Excellent. All right. And then at that point, I mean, then they can go up to 6 feet in a solid.
Right.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any other questions? Is there anybody else here to speak on behalf of this matter? Or you can come on up to the podium, please, if you want to speak. And then we'll ask you to sign in. There's a sign-up sheet. And let us know.
Gentlemen, my name is Tom Weiss. I'm the owner of the property at the 4601 Brookhurst. We're requesting this variance. Basically, we wish to replace a rotted fence with something more appropriate. The fence height you request, you only give me an allowance of 3.5 feet, which I don't think is safe for the number of children in the area. A 3.5-foot fence, any 6, 7-year-old could crawl over a 3.5-foot fence. You seem to have a problem with the fact that I asked for a 5-foot fence and make it a solid panel fence. Evidently, that's not going to fly, probably. But I would like to request probably a 4 or a 4.5-foot fence, possibly, if the 5 isn't going to fly. We could do the bottom in a solid panel, and then possibly the top in a more decorative section, a more decorative panel. It's supposed to be more pleasing to the eye in that way. The back of the property would be a 6-foot fence matching what we do on the side. Putting a fence, the 6-foot fence, on the 30-foot right-of-way line would cut that grassy section in the back of my yard down to half size. I would lose basically half the area, the grassy area around my pool in that respect. We go right down the center of the play area for the children. I do have grandchildren that come and play. So if you have any other questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Yeah, I mean, whether, just so you understand, even if we go to 4 feet, it's a variance. So I don't know if of itself that there's an objection to it, 4 feet, 5 feet. It's anything beyond the 3.5 is.
Well, 3.5.
Variance.
They said I could put up replace basically what I have, which would be the 5-foot, which is a 4-foot right now. It is 4 foot. That was put up back approximately 40 years ago, by the time I owned the property. So the one recommendation was to replace what I have, I believe.
That doesn't. No,
That
once.
makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think so.
The case has been told, is that the township's position? That he could replace?
Well, he couldn't replace with another 4 foot.
No.
3.5 is the maximum.
Yeah.
I don't know how the 4 foot got there in the first place. We have no record of any zoning permit for that fence. So
Anything after 3.5 foot
would be a violation, right?
And it would be a 3.5-foot open fence,
Right.
which is a split rail fence.
Right,
Or a chain link.
or a 3-foot solid panel fence would be the max.
Could I have a 3-foot solid panel with the open top?
Right, but the resolution too, on the other hand, requires a 3.5-foot fence around a pool. So the 3-foot solid panel fence would not work with the pool there. If the pool wasn't there, you could put the 3-foot solid panel, but
would it be a possibility of having a 3-foot solid bottom and a 1 foot
It would still
open
be
on the top?
it'd still be the top of the structure, top of the fence.
Yes,
So if
attached
you
to
had
that.
lattice, it would still be measured at that point.
Right.
You know, the whole purpose is to keep, you know, anything that tall from encroaching into a front yard.
This is a backyard area. So
Well,
not even
it's
close
still
to
the front yard of the people that live across the street, though, that from their perspective, you know, that's still what they look out their front door and sees is your front yard, even though you technically face on the other street. You know, that's still considered a front yard area, even though it's your side yard. But it is along right of way, so it is a front yard setback because you're on a corner lot.
Well, your 30-foot setback, does that start from the center of the street or the curb line?
It would start from the right of way, and you know, there's probably a 60-foot right of way with your street. You know, you're probably close to where that right of way line is right now with the existing fence.
Well, I measured 30 feet from the center line of the street.
Okay.
And if you notice, in one of the pictures, you showed a large tree that's in the backyard. And that 30-foot line from the center of the street runs basically along where that tree is.
Okay.
And that really takes away a great section of the backyard for a play area.
That tree?
Yes, that one there. Now, if that's from the center of the street,
Yeah, if that's 30 feet in from the center line, then everything from that tree towards the street's probably public right of way.
public right away?
Yeah, that's part of the right of way for the street. Even though the pavement isn't within that
No.
area, it's still, that's where your utilities are located and other, you know, water lines, sewer lines.
They probably have an easement through there.
But I still own the property?
Now, I doubt that there's an easement. That's probably platted right away through there.
So it's measured from the right of way and not from the center line.
Correct.
So you're telling me I have to measure from where?
Well, you don't know exactly where your property is then, do you?
I haven't had a survey, no.
Okay. You know, your property line is probably close to where that tree is. If that's 30 feet back from the center line of the pavement.
Mm-hmm.
In any event, you know, we're here to talk about your fence height
Yeah,
and not where
yeah.
your property line is.
Right, that's true. That's true. But the idea that if I had to go back to that point and put up a 6-foot fence there, that's going to look much worse than if I have a small fence 7 feet off the street. And they're going to have a big white wall, a 6-foot white wall at that point. And that's one of the things I'm trying to avert. Just take it down to a manageable and have a decorative fence that's going to look even better than the rail fence they have there now. I certainly don't want to devalue the property by putting a fence up and making it look like junk. I've been by properties where you go down a side street and you look and there's just a big white wall there, you know. And I can see your point there, and I understand. But it's something we're trying to improve the property rather than improve the look of the property.
Any questions, gentlemen? Anybody?
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak on behalf of this matter? Please come on up to the podium.
And my name is Deborah Boardley. I live at 4566 Westbourne, which is the house that's right behind his. So I don't know if you have that, a picture of that, but I'm in the plot just right underneath that.
Which one?
Just
Just
to
south
the
of it?
south.
Yeah, just south of it. Yep, that little square right there. That's me. Okay. And I guess I would like to ask for the variance also to be denied. I think that would, first of all, there's no other places in our subdivision that has like anything like that. When I moved in my house, I had similar problem, is that there was a pool in my house too, and I thought I had to weigh either having the backyard or having the pool, not having, not kicking the whole thing out. And I mean, because when I moved in my house, there was the privacy fence that was really close to my house, which they're asking the variance for. And so I chose to fill in the pool and have my yard. And I think that all of us make choices about where we live and what the rules are and all of that kind of stuff. So I guess I would, I really don't think that there's anything wrong with having the 6-foot fence in the back. I don't understand why they want to put a 5-foot privacy fence down that road. I really don't think aesthetically it would be pleasing. And I actually, I have a screened-in porch, and my family room and my kitchen is all in the back of the house. I mean, I'm going to have to look at this every single day. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with the way the setup is now with the privacy fence in the back and the split rail fence. Most of us have split rail fences in that subdivision. Anybody who would drive down that street would see that that's what most of us have. So I'm really uncomfortable with having the variance.
Okay, so what I heard, the understanding, there could be a solid 6-foot fence, but obviously within what the code allows, 30 feet back.
Yeah.
So you're keeping it tighter in the pool.
Right, and then it's almost just like the extension of the house. You've just walled yourself in or something. But then there still is the green space that everyone enjoys. So.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
If
Anybody
that
have questions?
helps, or
No.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here to speak on behalf of this matter? If not, we'll be doing some deliberation on this after we hear our next case, and then we'll be coming back out. We'll be voting and making our decision. So unless there's any other questions, we're going to move on to the next new business, which is a variance to allow extra square footage for a detached dwelling unit for the property located at 9535 Wolfinger Road by Al and Jackie Mercer, the property owners. And again, we'll go to, everybody a chance to switch, and go to, have Daryl please give us the staff report in a nutshell.
Yes, the applicants are seeking a variance from the maximum size requirement for a detached accessory dwelling unit under Section 2202B of 1,000 square feet to 1,350 square feet in order to meet ADA guidelines. The subject property is a 6-acre wooded lot owned by the applicants, and they seek to construct a detached accessory dwelling unit on the rear of the property. The current primary structure is 2,300 square feet. They wish to construct a 1,350 square foot home meeting American Disability Act standards to accommodate the needs of one of the applicant's parents. They maintain that the extra space is needed to allow for the wider doors and hallways and provide greater wheelchair accessibility in the bathrooms, kitchen, and bedrooms. Section 2202B, detached ADU, dictates that the maximum ADU size for a detached ADU is 1,000 square feet or 60% of the total area of the principal residence, whichever is less. Staff recommends denial of this request. The staff's contention that the proposed 1,350 square foot home would constitute a full-size dwelling and a second principal home on the property rather than an accessory dwelling unit. Section 2215, more than one principal building of the Sylvania Township Zoning Resolution, states that no more than one principal building may be located on a single lot in any residential district. While ADA guidelines do call for wider hallways and doorways and maneuver space, We don't feel that it justifies an extra 350 feet of livable area. Additionally, the intent of an ADU is that they be occupied by immediate family members and not used as rental dwellings. In considering this variance, the board should consider how future property owners will use this two-house on one parcel arrangement and what impact, if any, there would be on the surrounding area.
And once again, we'll have the full staff analysis and recommendation read into the record. Is there any questions from the board for staff on this? Yes?
No, not right now.
Not yet?
Anybody wants to speak?
Nobody? Okay. Is there anybody here to speak on behalf of this matter? I could ask you to come up and sign in at the podium.
Hello, my name is Jackie Mercer. We are requesting a variance of additional space over 1,000 square feet allowed in Article 2202B of the Sylvania Township zoning regulations. This space will allow for the extra wide hallways, 3-foot doors, and accessibility in bathrooms, kitchen, and bedrooms needed to accommodate the use of a wheelchair with deterioration of mobility in the recent years from the lingering effects of childhood polio as required by code in the American Disability Act. Plan and specifications have been drawn to accommodate the needs of my elderly parents that exceed the 1,000 square foot allowance by about 350 square feet. A considerable amount of time and money have been spent contracting with Wayne Homes to provide plans and specifications and construction of the ADU. Further delays or altering the plans will cause hardship or possibly terminating the project. Article 2406B. The land on which we are requesting a variance is unique from others in the surrounding area as it is large enough to accommodate the extra square footage. Therefore, granting this variance does not require the zoning application does not require the zoning board to grant similar variations to others. Article 2406D, granting of the application is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right and not merely to serve as a convenience to the applicant. In the last 5 years, we have witnessed the decline in my mother's mobility concerning the use of her legs. As future caregivers, the convenience of being able to provide for my parents, who would be in our backyard, extremely important, not only for myself, but also for my parents.
Thank you.
And this is my husband, Al Mercer.
Hi, my name is Al Mercer, and I'm also the property owner. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Sabo for coming out to the property to take a look at it. We sure did appreciate that the other day. One of the concerns that the staff had was renting of the ADU down the road. The option of renting the ADU never crossed our mind during any part of the planning process. The first we even thought about it was just the other day when we got the recommendation from the staff. We would be willing to sign any kind of legal document saying that we would never rent the ADU as long as we were owners. We'd also be willing to sign any kind of legal document saying that in the event down the road that we sell the property, that the future property owners could not rent the ADU also. And the last part is if they were worried about renting of the ADU, what would prevent us from renting? We're allowed up to 1,000 square feet for an ADU. What would prevent us from renting that out? So, in my own opinion, the worry about rental is kind of moot because we could do it no matter what size it was. But again, I just want to reiterate that the plan of this was never, ever to rent it out. We really love the property. We like the peace and quiet we have out there. The long-term goal is that my wife and I will move into the ADU when we get to that stage of our life, and one of our kids would probably reside in the main house that we have now. So thank you very much for your time.
Was there any consideration given into the design of having it attached to the primary dwelling? Understand even the size aside, but
unfortunately, the design of our house doesn't, and where things are located, would make it very difficult for a flow pattern to work from our current residence to attaching a piece of property, another unit to it. Just where the utilities are located. The kitchen is at the east end of the property, and that would be the best place to do it. And unfortunately, that's where all the utilities come in: the propane, the natural gas that we're going to be getting here in a month or so, the electric, and everything else. And there's a big transformer box out there, which was my understanding is very costly to move a transformer box that's at your house because we're so far off the road. They put the transformer up by the house and not out by the road. And that would be very costly to move that.
I have a couple of questions. Was there any consideration to a plan that would be limited to 1,000 square feet?
You know, I don't know how you would really design a house with ADA under 1,000 square feet. In my younger days, I had an apartment. My wife also had an apartment, 900 square feet for a two-bedroom, one-bath apartment. And to be honest, the hallways weren't wide, the doorways weren't wide. I don't know how you would keep an ADA ADU under 1,000 square feet. I don't see how that would be possible.
So it goes into the additional 350 square feet with the ADA?
Basically, it's extra space for wheelchair maneuverability. For my mother-in-law to be able to get around both sides of the bed, she needs a slightly larger bedroom. For her to get out the door, she needs a larger door. To get down the hallways, a wider hallway. Just be able to get down around dining room tables, around furniture that they have in the house. You just need a little extra space for the wheelchair access. My father lives out in Pennsylvania, had a stroke 7 years ago, and he's in a wheelchair. And I have become a lot more educated in the ADA requirements because of that, and realize how much extra space it does take to make extra room for wheelchair access.
Were you aware of the zoning resolution when you purchased the property?
Part of it. We were aware of the 60% of the main dwelling. We were not aware of the 1,000 square feet, whichever is more or less. So when we originally talked about it, we only knew of the 60% rule.
Okay. Have any studies been done about services being provided by governmental agencies like the police department or the fire department as far as access going back to the new unit that you're planning?
You mean, is there going to be a problem for them gaining access?
I was just wondering whether there had been any.
It shouldn't be. Actually, the most restrictive part of the whole property would be the driveway from the road back to our residence. From our residence back to where they're going is about another 100, 150 feet back from there. In fact, I don't know if you have the aerial view, or one of the views showed, let's see, I believe you had one from the stone driveway looking kind of back toward the cleared out area. Did I see something along that line? Yeah, the one in the lower right. You're actually, where the picture is taken from is about where their house would be located.
Right.
And you're looking to the north up to our house, and then the driveway goes north of that. So the access from their house to our house is wide open. So I guess to answer your question, in short, no, it will not access any kind of emergency services from getting to their unit.
And do you have well watered?
We have city water now.
City water?
Yes.
And sewer?
We have septic,
Okay.
and obviously they would have septic also.
Will that have an impact at all with a unit like this?
I would think with 6 acres of land, they should be able to accommodate probably another leach field and tile system on the property.
I don't have any questions.
Anybody else?
I just question how we went from 1,000, it's a third bigger, to 1,350 square feet.
That's what we came when
I
we.
mean, I don't know, I just can't visualize, other than the house being bigger, the hallways and the doorways are all the same size.
Well, the extra room in the bathroom, an extra room. I mean, you could make a smaller living room, but then with a wheelchair, you'd be bumping into furniture. So we're just giving a little extra room for wheelchair access to get around sofas and tables and the dining room or kitchen table, whatever they use, and stuff like that.
Any other questions? Someone else here to speak on this matter?
Good evening, gentlemen.
We'll ask you to sign in, please.
My name is Gary Waymer.
Sir. Thank you.
I'm the parent. Let me give you a little background on me so that we understand where I'm coming from. I started in the building trades in 1954. In 67, after other than a few years in the military, I went to work for the city of Toledo as a rehabilitation specialist. I served in that capacity for over 12 years, and through a series of promotions and what have you, I was also a building inspector, state certified building inspector, for another 7 years. On retirement in 95, I went to work for Pogemeyer Design Group, architectural engineering firm out of Bowling Green. I administered their community housing improvement program for 13 different communities, one of which was Lucas County. In that time, I have worked with the Ability Center, which is over on Monroe Street, a number of different times addressing the needs of the disabled. I have a lot of experience in this area. And through 17 or 18 different drawings, I managed to come up with a suitable drawing that was adequate for my wife and I. That drawing constitutes right around 1,350, give or take a few feet either way. I have struggled a long time trying to get this down to a point where it's economically feasible for me to do this. I don't have a lot of money. And this is about as small as I can get it without having some difficulties in my wife moving around. You take a 12 by 12 bedroom, you take 6 foot out of each door because you've got 3 foot doors and another 3 foot which you have to open, takes up that room. I've got 2 or 3 doors going into that bedroom. I have once you've got a bed in there and a dresser or two, There's not much room left. In a kitchen, we won't have upper cabinets. There's no need for them. Wife couldn't get up there to get anything out of them anyhow. So what do? We make the kitchen a little bit bigger and put in a series of base cabinets, which makes it adequate. Those are the kinds of things that I struggled with when I was making up this design. I went to Wayne Homes with it, and they were very impressed with the way I came up with this. So, for someone to question how I came up with this, that's how I came up with it. My experience in this is long, and it's wide and tall. I can call in any number of people that I worked with who can vouch for my credentials. John here knows somewhat of me.
I wouldn't brag about that. But
Okay?
Thanks, Tom.
I'm teasing.
John and I worked for the same fella when in the city.
Can I ask, do you have one of your floor plans or a
I have a preliminary drawing from Wayne Homes on 1,350 foot. Unfortunately, I only have one, but I can show you pretty much the floor plan. These are the, for instance, going from my house into the garage, I have to have an inside hallway for my wife. For me to have to take her outside and put her in a car, it's just not there. Now this is going to get cut down a ways, by the way. This move, because of my cost being a little high, I'm bringing this in just a little bit, probably another 1.5 feet, 2 foot.
So does the 1,350, does that include the garage as well?
No.
Okay.
You talk about
So what is it including the garage? When we're looking at this issue, I'm sorry, John or Daryl, are we looking at the entire structure?
Exclusive of the garage,
Right.
the habitable area.
Living space.
Porches and garages are exclusive.
Okay.
It's
All right.
just the footprint of the house.
Okay.
There's 2 bedrooms and 2 baths.
For instance, the reason I got a half bath in there, when my wife gets in that bathroom in the morning, how long is it going to take her to prepare herself for the day? And if I have to use the bathroom, I don't want to interrupt her, so I have to put in a half bath of my own. This is just real world here, folks. I've been at this a long time.
Are there any other houses out there that have these detached structures on that road?
Not that I'm aware of. Matter of fact, I'm not sure there are even any in the township that are legitimate. This is a relatively new portion of the zoning code. I think it was first put into the code probably in 2008, 2009. So I'm not sure.
We actually have issued one in the township.
Did she? Okay.
And it was actually in a subdivision. It was on a lot smaller lot, the one that we did issue.
Issued within the guidelines?
Yes, they were within the guidelines.
Was it detached or attached?
It was detached.
I'm sure your legal department could come up with some kind of a document that would ensure that we don't use this in anything other than family member type stuff. I don't know how long it would fly, but under the circumstances, I think they could come up with something that would suffice.
The issue comes that everyone's is hung up on is that if we grant it to you, what's going to stop us granting, someone else coming and wanting the same thing?
Because it's ADA.
I don't know if that's. I don't know if you can really do that. And we
Still puts-
there is some opposition. Right? We've got some opposition. A neighbor.
Right.
It still puts two houses on one property.
Big house,
Huh?
independent house.
Yeah.
It's not even an accessory, it's another house.
That's,
I mean, if you could attach it somehow,
Yeah.
that you wouldn't have to be here. You could do it.
However, it is pretty much unrealistic to try and address that issue. I looked at that for a long time, and because that was our first initial objective was to try and attach. It just isn't going to work. It just isn't going to work.
Even an attached ADU would still be 1,000 square feet maximum.
What we're seeing doesn't really have the characteristics of an ADU. At least it needs a second home.
Now, there's no way to attach the house anywhere, attach this new house to the old house.
Well,
In addition, rather than
as an addition,
Right.
What if you use a breezeway where you could bypass some of the problems that are close to the house? It's attached.
right,
The
it's
problem
still,
lies is there's a section for an attached ADU, so it is a whole other living quarters, so it wouldn't be considered just an addition because of that being in the code.
so you couldn't say it's an addition
Right,
and use it for that.
right.
Just a bedroom.
right.
And that a lot of people were coming in inquiring about mother-in-law's quarters, for items like this when someone's sick or whatnot. That was the purpose. Back when Brad Peebles was here, for placing that within our code.
Let's go beyond that. Any questions? Any other questions? Or comments? Okay. Well, we thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak on behalf of this matter?
I have a question for Daryl. You did receive an email.
Yes, I forwarded on to BZA and
And what
also.
was who was it from? And what was it?
You have a copy.
Right.
I know, but Daryl's going to tell us about it.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I didn't know if you knew that.
Yeah, that's from the neighbor at 9525 Wolfinger.
Where's that located?
The it'd be this property right here, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, yeah, that's
Right next door.
Was that originally a parcel split, or was it whole subdivision?
There was a 40-acre tract that were subdivided into the parcels that you see there now.
Did you have any other conversations with that property owner?
No.
With respect to this, or it just came in with?
Well, actually, I didn't. It was just emails. I guess she came into the office on Friday when I was out in the township and spoke to John and Melissa.
Right. Nature of her concern seemed to be more of the increased in density in this particular area. She thought that, the area should remain relatively low density. And, of course, the zoning only requires a 1 acre lot anyhow. Just so happens many of these lots out here are 5 and 6 acres apiece. But, her main concern was to keep it a rural area out here and try to limit the overall number of houses in the vicinity.
And she raises a question that certainly would not be before this board, but about some deed restrictions too.
Right, and I did share those with the applicants here tonight, and, it's not something that the township would enforce, but they should at least be aware of it as property owners.
I agree with you totally. So I think, hopefully at least you're aware of that, or at least looking into it, because even if this board granted, you could be facing another legal issue if you're violating a deed restriction. That being, for any dwelling is supposed to be a minimum size, and this would be under that size. So, okay. Unless there's any other questions or comments, we will be taking an adjournment to deliberate, and then we'll be coming out shortly, be back in session, and we'll be voting on these matters, giving a decision tonight. Okay. Off the record.
Is she in there?
I think she's in the back turning the machine on.
Okay. We are now back in session. One thing I'd like to get on the record, Mr. Bolin did join the board right as we commenced the hearing. So of the record, he will also be voting on these actions tonight since he got to hear everything. Mr. Sabo will be the alternate. Okay. The first one, do we have I'd like to call for a motion on the 4601 Brookhurst Road.
I make a motion that we put this up for a vote to accept this variance as written.
Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
We take roll, please.
Mr. Emch?
No.
Mr. Hayes?
No.
Mr. Amos?
No.
Mr. Bolin?
No.
Mr. Halbert?
No. Okay. And the next will be, I'd like to call for a motion on the variance at 9535 Wolfinger.
I move to approve the application as submitted.
Is there a second?
Let's second it.
Mr. Emch?
No.
Mr. Hayes?
No.
Mr. Amos?
No.
Mr. Bolin?
No.
Mr. Halbert?
No. Okay. Unless there be any other business. Also, these decisions will be sent out to you by regular mail. And at some point, the minutes do get posted onto the township's website. Unless there's any other business, which I'm not aware of, take a motion for adjournment.
So
Let's-
Second.
We are adjourned.
Turn down.
Oh, you're welcome.
That's right.
Yeah. Figure out the best way to. You wear a thing, or you have this last? I think they've got it back. They asked me what I thought to use. Something for that one, too. So in the, we'll give